Here's some background on the clean water budget and this year's communications plan. Vermonters value clean water and appreciate their local streams, lakes, and wetlands. Our economic prosperity and way of life depend on clean water. Clean water protects public health, supports fishing, swimming, boating, and other recreational uses, and provides critical wildlife habitat. Clean water also attracts visitors and protects property values. Total maximum daily loads, or TMDLs for short, are the maximum amount of pollutants that can enter a waterway on any given day while meeting water quality standards. You can think of a TMDL as a pollution budget to ensure our waterways remain clean. As of 2025, Vermont has roughly 29 TMDLs that target pollutants like stormwater volume, sediment, nutrients, and bacteria. This map shows the spatial coverage of the state's large-scale nutrient TMDLs. The Lake Champlain Basin is in dark green, and the Lake Memphremagog Basin is in light green. Both lakes have a TMDL for phosphorus. The Connecticut River drainage, shown in blue, is part of a 5-state Long Island Sound TMDL for nitrogen. Vermont's commitments to clean water are derived through two foundational pieces of legislation that support the state's clean water funding approach. The main driver for clean water projects under the Clean Water Initiative is the Lake Champlain and Lake Memphremagog TMDLs. Among other things, Act 64 established the Clean Water Board and the Clean Water Fund to demonstrate the state's financial commitments to our water quality obligations. Act 76 expanded on Act 64, formalizing a floor commitment to fund our water quality goals, establishing a long-term sufficient funding source for the Clean Water Fund, resetting board priorities, and launching new grant programs that redirected administration of a large portion of the funds. Vermont Clean Water Partners help us meet our TMDL pollution budgets by designing and implementing clean water projects. These new projects help to restore, protect, and maintain Vermont's waters. The table on this slide demonstrates types of clean water practices across sectors, their primary clean water benefit, as well as how they provide co-benefits like flood resilience. You'll see that the clean water budget supports clean water projects across the following sectors: agriculture, developed lands, natural resources, roads, and wastewater. The Clean Water Board was established in Vermont law to oversee the clean water budget process and to make its annual budget recommendation to the administration and the legislature. The Clean Water Board has 5 state agency secretaries as well as 4 public appointees appointed by the governor's office. Every year during the fall and winter, the Clean Water Board holds several public meetings to discuss and approve a draft of the clean water budget. An important part of this process is obtaining feedback from the public during the public comment period, which runs between October and November. During this time, the public will be able to give their opinions on the draft clean water budget before it is recommended to the governor. Once approved by the governor, the budget goes through the legislative process in the spring and eventually is appropriated to each of the state agencies. The Clean Water Initiative Performance Report annually reports on the progress that the Clean Water Initiative investments have made on water quality in Vermont. The report includes summaries of investments statewide, as well as progress within each of the major total maximum daily loads. The performance report is complementary to the Clean Water Interactive Dashboard, a visualization tool that allows users to filter and customize clean water data. You can view data like the cost effectiveness of clean water projects, clean water investments by county or watershed basin, and much more. This graph shows the estimated total phosphorus reductions in the Lake Champlain Basin from state fiscal year 2016 to state fiscal year 2023, an example of the kind of information that can be found on the interactive dashboard. Engaging the public in the budget process. All materials can be found on the Clean Water Board webpage. Join the Clean Water Stakeholders listserv to be alerted of announcements and upcoming meetings. Review the following materials to become informed about the draft state fiscal year 2027 budget. The story map is a visual resource that provides background on the Clean Water Board and clean water challenges in Vermont. It's a great place to start for anyone new to the budget cycle. The state fiscal year 2027 at a glance 2-pager is a short visual summary of the policy document, which has graphics of tiering percentages and how this budget compares to prior years. In that same file is the plain language budget table, which is an expanded version of the budget sheet that provides more context about each line item, like a description of what's being funded, the sectors those projects impact, and geographic location. For a deep dive, see the budget table and the policy document, which provide the most detail for this budget cycle. The public comment period will begin on October 16th and run until November 16th. During that time, we will take public comments on the budget. This feedback is very important so the board can ensure that its budget recommendation to the governor has been informed by public feedback. Members of the public can participate in 3 ways. Email anr.cleanwatervt@vermont.gov. We are strongly encouraging this method of communication this year, especially for folks who are less familiar with the line item. The second way is to answer our questionnaire, which runs until November 16th, or to comment at the public hearing on November 7th. The board will take all those comments into consideration at the board meeting on December 2nd. State Fiscal Year 2027 Clean Water Budget Draft Recommendation at a Glance. The State Fiscal Year 2027 Clean Water Budget is roughly $45.2 million. This consists of a few different funding sources. First, there is $29.8 million of projected new revenue for the Clean Water Fund. That will come from the Meals and Rooms tax, the Property Transfer Tax Clean Water Surcharge, and unclaimed bottle deposits. These revenues are projected to accrue within the Clean Water Fund during State Fiscal Year 2027, which runs from July 1st, 2026 to June 30th, 2027. So this is an estimate for future revenue. Next is the $10 million from the Clean Water section of the state's capital bill. Finally, the budget assigns $5.3 million in prior and current year unallocated, unreserved Clean Water Fund revenues to serve as one-time funds. Unallocated, unreserved revenues appear for a few reasons. Actual unallocated, unreserved dollars are those accrued as a result of the state fiscal year 2025 closing out with a revenue surplus. This was largely due to a significant boost in interest income earned on the account for the year. Projected unallocated, unreserved dollars from the current state fiscal year 2026 appear because projected revenue for this fiscal year is slightly higher than projected when the budget for this fiscal year was developed. The Clean Water Board separates funding programs into tiers 1, 2, 3, and other, where the highest priority programs are considered tier 1 and the lowest priority programs are considered tier 3 or other. Statute determines for the board which types of programs are first, second, and third priority. This slide shows the priorities described in statute for each tier. A few years back, the Clean Water Board did a thorough review and reorganization of their budget structure to reflect this tiering approach. Now the budget sheet clusters line items into tiers based on which priorities the line item funding programs were determined to meet. Our understanding of the intent from the legislature was to prioritize first programs and opportunities that were voluntarily driven, recognizing these would need additional incentive and cost coverage to be implemented. Second-tier programs often support regulatory compliance, but on public lands and with public infrastructure, recognizing that regulations will drive those projects but also seeking to offset some public costs. Third priority seeks to offset regulatory compliance costs for private entities. Note that there are some line item exceptions to these tiering characterizations. Other refers to programs not listed in statute. However, the other priorities tier line items are included in the budget to support other statutory priorities and or to leverage some federal funding for clean water. The budget allocates more funds toward line items in higher priority tiers. As a best practice, the board generally tries to allocate at least 60% of the budget toward Tier 1 initiatives, 30% toward Tier 2 initiatives, and 10% toward Tier 3 and other initiatives, although this varies year to year based on need and other available funding for certain initiatives. This pie chart summarizes how the total clean water budget as drafted, including both Clean Water Fund and capital bill dollars, is allocated across priority tiers. 66% is allocated to Tier 1 initiatives, 21% to Tier 2 initiatives, 0% to Tier 3 initiatives, and 30% to other initiatives. These tiering percentages differ while looking at the Clean Water budget by Clean Water Fund and capital bill source more specifically. Now we will hear descriptions of each line item within the state fiscal year 2027 Clean Water budget. Water quality restoration formula grants are awarded to watershed-based organizations called clean water service providers and are currently limited to the Lake Champlain and Lake Memphremagog basins. These formula grants fund non-regulatory clean water projects that are designed to reduce the amount of phosphorus within waterways and increase water quality. Funds are allocated through formula grants based on phosphorus reduction targets and the cost per unit of phosphorus reduced. Formula grants fund non-regulatory clean water projects. Clean water service providers, under the advisement of their basin water quality councils, determine how funds are awarded at the project level to project implementers, including watershed groups, natural resource conservation districts, municipalities, and regional planning commissions. This picture shows the results of a floodplain restoration project, just one example of the type of projects that these funds are used for. Clean water project may be lost or fail due to unforeseen circumstances not attributable to clean water service provider negligence. This slide item provides clean water service providers funds to recover eligible project losses, so those clean water projects may resume their function. These projects are non-regulatory and ensure that important progress toward the total maximum daily load goals is not lost. The image on this slide shows a damaged project site after the July 2024 floods, an example of how a clean water project can be lost due to unforeseen circumstances like flooding.
This is Ben Copans with the Watershed Planning Program, and I am going to talk about how the Tactical Basin Planning Support Grants fund the participation of watershed partners in the Tactical Basin Planning process, regional coordination and Basin Water Quality Council meetings, and support outreach and technical assistance to implement tactical basin plan strategies. These funds support statutorily listed basin planning partners, including 11 regional planning commissions, 14 natural resource conservation districts, and 14 watershed groups. An example of how this funding has helped to implement a strategy in the Passumpsic Tactical Basin Plan is outreach by the Caledonia County Natural Resources Conservation District to the Joe's Pond Lakeshore owners that has led to grants for the assessment, design, and implementation of priority lakeshore restoration projects.
The statewide non-regulatory Clean Water Projects line item is to be administered by the Clean Water Initiative Program within the Agency of Natural Resources. It is a series of sub-initiatives that will fund non-regulatory or voluntary clean water projects across the state. Clean water projects under this grant program are specifically ones that maintain or improve water quality, protect high-quality waters, restore degraded or stressed waters, create resilient watersheds and communities, and support the public's use and enjoyment of the state's waters. Some projects that achieve this might be floodplain or wetland restoration work, removal of dams, planting of trees along streams, and stabilization projects to protect lake shorelands. Eligible entities to receive these grants may vary based on the sub-initiative, but it might include such entities as watershed groups, natural resource conservation districts, municipalities, and regional planning commissions. This is the program that is proposed to meet the goals and outcomes of the Water Quality Enhancement Grants as described and established in Act 76 of 2019.
Hello, my name is Betsy McGavisk. I am the Program Coordinator for the Farm and Forest Viability Program at the Vermont Housing and Conservation Board. In case it's helpful to know, VHCB is a quasi-public agency. We sit just outside of state government, and we are pleased to have joined with the state agencies on the Clean Water Initiative a number of years ago. It was determined that the outcomes of our land conservation program, as well as our farm and forest viability program, are protecting and improving water quality and helping to meet the state's TMDL's goals. VHCB is also serving as the clean water service provider for the Lake Memphremagog Basin. Our first area of work under the Clean Water Initiative is our land conservation and water quality projects. We use this funding to make grants to municipalities, conservation nonprofits, and state agencies to fund both natural resources and farmland conservation projects to permanently protect that land from development. We also include special language in the conservation easements, which provide additional protections for water resources, such as riparian buffer zones and wetland protection zones. Many of these conservation projects also result in floodplain and other types of restoration. One example of this program is the recently conserved Lily Ponds Highland Project, a 615-acre property in Athens, Brookline, and Townsend, which was acquired by the Windmill Hill Pinnacle Association. VHCB contributed $147,000 in Clean Water Fund dollars to this project, which were matched by over $600,000 in foundation grants, private funds, and a generous landowner bargain sale. This property has rich water resources, which includes 6,600 feet of stream frontage, 22 acres of wetlands comprised of vernal pools, beaver ponds, and portions of lily and town line ponds. Maintaining this landscape in healthy forest cover will contribute to water quality, flood resilience, and carbon sequestration and storage. WHPA does not plan to harvest timber on the property and will manage it as a nature preserve aimed at fostering mature forest. Vermont Land Trust and VHCB co-hold a conservation easement on this land as well.
Good afternoon. My name is Nina Gage. I am the Assistant Director for the Vermont Agency of Agriculture, Food and Markets, the Division of Water Quality. Water quality grants to partners and farmers line item supports agricultural pollution prevention across a range of programs. The Agency of Agriculture offers 9 different technical and financial assistance programs. These programs support everything from education and technical assistance for farm operators to supporting acquisition of conservation equipment to install conservation practices to reduce impacts to water quality, as well as project identification, implementation, and more. Funding recipients for these programs include farms, agricultural service providers, agricultural associations, local and regional watershed organizations, and more. The projects support both statutory and regulatory requirements. On average, 87% of the state's estimated phosphorus reductions achieved in recent years are associated with the agricultural sector, and 69% have occurred as a direct result of Agency of Ag Food Markets programs. On average, programs supported by this line item result in more than 100,000 acres of agricultural conservation practices every year. Here are a couple project examples supported by the water quality grants to partners and farmers line item. In the upper left-hand section of the screen is a before and after photo of Waste Management Improvement Project under the Best Management Practices program. The upper right corner of the screen shows a riparian forest buffer installed through the Conservation Reserve Enhancement Program, which removes land from agricultural production and converts that land into a riparian use. The lower left photo features a cover crop which is installed to protect soil through the winter season under the Farm Agronomic Practices program. And the lower right section of the screen shows an example of a project under the pasture surface water fencing program. This project excluded livestock from a stream, installed an alternative watering source for that livestock, and provided funds for seeding of that area adjacent to the stream. The program support line item provides funding for foundational operating activities in the Water Quality Division and the Agricultural Non-Point Source Pollution Control Program. These include agricultural non-point source permitting, investigations of complaints regarding potential water quality issues on farms, comprehensive farm inspections, technical financial assistance programs, and more. In addition to the inspection of farm fields, our staff inspect on average more than 2,800 acres of farm production areas or barnyards each year to review compliance with agricultural non-point source pollution regulations through 336 separate compliance assessments.
The Program and Partner Support line item is administered by the Clean Water Initiative program within the Agency of Natural Resources. It is a collection of sub-initiatives that are foundational to supporting the structure and function of the Clean Water Fund and program obligations under Act 76 and Act 64. It can include such investments as enhancing the capacity of our watershed organizations across the state, paying for lab analytic fees for water quality samples collected by our partners, or maybe even making improvements in our project tracking, accounting, and prioritization tools. Depending on whether the sub-initiative is structured as a grant or a contract, there are a range of eligible entities that may receive the funds, some of which are listed on this slide. As an example of something that was invested in with this line item, the Functioning Floodplains Initiative is creating map tools to help our partners locate high-value river restoration sites.
Hello, my name is Oliver Pearson, and I'm the Director of the Division of Forests for the Department of Forest Parks and Recreation. I'm going to give you a brief overview of the two line items in the clean water budget that support forest management and regulatory compliance to achieve clean water outcomes. The first line item provides funding for forest water quality practices and portable skidder bridges. This line item has two primary components. First, funding will be used to make skidder bridges available for forest management activities. Skidder bridges are now widely accepted as the best management practices for controlling non-point source pollution associated with timber harvests. These temporary bridges minimize stream bank and bed disturbance, and they are affordable and economical to use because they can be removed and reused on other harvest jobs. These funds will support the adoption of the use of skidder bridges by loggers by providing a cost share program for loggers to purchase skidder bridges or allow FPR to loan out skidder bridges for use in certain situations and then recover these bridges. While the cost of these skidder bridges is seen as cost effective for FPR over the long term, the initial cost of purchasing these bridges can be cost prohibitive for some loggers, and therefore this program provides an affordable way to get this best water quality practice onto the ground. We anticipate using these funds to provide multiple bridges that are made from either steel or wood. Second, funding will support increased staff capacity to provide education and technical assistance to private forest landowners to understand and implement forest water quality practices. Our water quality foresters will work directly with partners, including DEC, natural resource conservation districts, and as well as clean water service providers, to plan and implement clean water practices to ensure logging on private lands complies with acceptable management practices and related standards. This work will include including outreach materials as well as increasing awareness of current tools that support foresters, loggers, and landowners to understand water quality practices. For example, FPR recently released an app that can be downloaded and it outlines current regulatory practices and provides the user with convenient access to the AMP manual as well as other tools and assists the user in meeting water quality standards. The second line item in the clean water budget to support regulatory compliance in the forestry sector provides funding to implement best management practices on state lands, including state forests. The Agency of Natural Resources manages about 9% of Vermont's land base, and these lands are mostly forested. They contain about 940 miles of roads, and in order for the ANR to understand the water quality concerns related to road runoff on these lands, FPR has developed a tool modeled after work that was done on rural roads to inventory and prioritize projects for implementation to achieve best water quality practices and reduce road runoff. At this point, almost all roads and state lands have been inventoried, and FPR is now in the process of identifying specific projects that can be supported for implementation with clean water funding. The types of projects that these funds would support on ANR's roads include correcting surface drainage, repairing ditches, and installing ditch relief such as culverts and improved stream crossings. We also will use funding to close out roads in sensitive areas. Clean water funds will be available to make strategic investments to reduce water quality pollution coming off of ANR roads. We're working closely with the DEC on the methods used to identify, prioritize, and report on projects. Projects completed under this initiative have multiple benefits, such as reducing pollution, making ANR managed forest recreational access points more accessible and more resilient to extreme weather events such as flooding, and overall enhancing recreational infrastructure. These projects will help the state of Vermont lead by example on how to best manage our roads to ensure that we meet our water quality improvement objectives.
Hello, this is Joel Perigo with the Vermont Agency of Transportation Municipal Assistance Program. The Municipal Roads Grants and Aid Program is funded with clean water funds. This program provides financial assistance to municipalities to bring hydrologically connected municipal roads into full compliance with the Municipal Roads General Permit. Funds are dispersed by formula to all participating municipalities based on hydrologically connected road miles. Practices eligible for funding under this program include drainage ditch installation and upgrades, turnouts, removal of high road shoulders, stabilization and installation of drainage culverts and catch basin outlets, and on Class 4 roads, stabilization of gully erosion.
Hello, this is Joel Perigo with the Vermont Agency of Transportation Municipal Assistance Program. The Municipal Better Roads program is supported by clean water funds. Construction projects funded by grants to municipalities in the Better Roads program are meant to be quick, low-cost projects that are easy to advance without all the requirements of federal funding. Example construction projects include ditching, check dams, slope stabilization, and structure culvert upgrades. All clean water funds through the Better Roads program will be used to bring hydrologically connected municipal road segments into full compliance with the Municipal Roads General Permit. Other funding sources may be used to support other types of construction projects through the Better Roads program. In addition to the construction projects, which are funded in part by the Clean Water Fund and in part with funds appropriated through the Transportation Bill, VTrans also funds road erosion inventories through the Better Roads program as required by the Municipal Roads General Permit.
This line item supports the establishment and maintenance of municipal stormwater utilities. Stormwater utilities are entities that municipalities can choose to establish for the purposes of managing stormwater runoff. Act 37 of 2025 expanded eligible uses for funds through the Municipal Stormwater Implementation Program to also support the design or engineering necessary for the formation of a municipal stormwater utility.
So our next area of work under the Clean Water Initiative is our water quality farm improvement and retirement projects, which are two separate programs under the same line item. The first of which are grants of up to $40,000 to help Vermont farmers invest in water quality related on-farm infrastructure. Projects require a one-to-one match and must be on-farm capital improvements that have direct positive impacts on water quality. Examples include construction or renovation to farm infrastructure like expanding or relining manure pits, creating barnyards or animal housing like we see here at Sprague Ranch. We've also been able to fund equipment purchases like manure injectors or no-till equipment, which prevent manure runoff and improve soil health. This program has also been able to serve as an important source of matching funds for farms pursuing larger projects that are co-funded with USDA NRCS and Vermont's Agency of Agriculture, Food and Markets. Our other program under this line item are farm retirement projects. And these projects target areas that are in agricultural production where it's really difficult, if not impossible, to continue farming there without adversely affecting water quality. Also, in many cases, it would simply not be physically or financially feasible to make the changes on these farms that are necessary to protect water quality while keeping the land in production. So in consultation with the Agency of Agriculture, Food and Markets and with the Agency of Natural Resources, we fund projects that will facilitate the outright purchase of land or for the placement of conservation easements that take the land out of agricultural production. In some cases, portions of the land can remain in farming, such as upland fields that are not impacting water resources. And the goal is to conserve the land for the sake of protecting water resources, and in many cases, these projects also have the result in the restoration of the floodplain and riparian areas. One example of this is the Farrow Farm, a 163-acre former dairy in Morgan, which was acquired by Fish and Wildlife through $250,000 in clean water funds. This acquisition and land restoration was of key importance to Fish and Wildlife due to the waterways on this property, and these are a critical habitat for a number of species such as rainbow smelt, landlocked Atlantic salmon, and brown trout. The Nature Conservancy and VHCB co-hold a conservation easement on the land as well.
The Innovative or Alternative Technologies or Practices line item funds innovative practices designed to improve water quality or reduce sources of pollution to surface waters. This line item is populated with funds on an as-needed basis. It can be used to serve as available match or leverage for innovative or alternative research in clean water work, and it may also fund innovative or experimental special projects, not yet standardized to be eligible under other programs in the clean water budget. One example of a special project recently funded from this line item is the Lake Carmi alum treatment. An alum treatment binds to phosphorus in the lake, making the nutrient unavailable to fuel toxic algal blooms, reducing the size and likelihood of these algal blooms. Alum treatments, which are typically a significant financial investment, should only be applied when cases where phosphorus from the surrounding landscape or watershed have been sufficiently mitigated, so that this investment in alum is cost-effective and endures over the long term.
The 3-acre permit financial assistance line item supports municipally owned, municipally adopted, and private 3-acre sites through 3-acre permitting and construction. This program will provide funds and/or financing to support individuals and entities required to obtain and comply with a 3-acre permit. DEC is proposing to use funding in this line item to fill remaining gaps in existing assistance for high-needs 3-acre sites, and to pilot a funding initiative that incentivizes municipal assumption of permitting responsibilities for private 3-acre sites, a cornerstone intention of Act 37 of 2025. The Developed Lands Implementation Program line item is administered by the Clean Water Initiative Program within the Agency of Natural Resources. The intent of this line item will be addressed through the 3-acre general permit financial assistance line item for state fiscal year 2027.
I will be speaking about the Lakes in Crisis Fund. The Lakes in Crisis Fund is primarily used to support water quality improvement activities up at Lake Carmi. Lake Carmi was designated as a lake in crisis by the Vermont State Legislature in 2018 due to the frequency of cyanobacteria blooms occurring in the lake. It is the only lake in crisis in the state of Vermont currently. The Lakes in Crisis funds are used to support water quality monitoring activities, the operation of the aeration system in the lake that is intended to reduce internal phosphorus loading, and the funds are also used for a project identifying, cataloging existing best management practices in the lake's watershed and prioritizing the development of new best management practices for design and implementation also in the lake watershed. Lakes in Crisis funds have been awarded to the town of Franklin, the Franklin Natural Resource Conservation District, and the state's Agricultural and Environmental Laboratory. And these funds support the implementation of the Lake Carmi Crisis Response Plan, which is in its 3rd version, as well as the Carmi Total Maximum Daily Load Phosphorus Reduction Plan that is intended to bring the lake into compliance with Vermont's water quality standards.
Hello, my name is Gary Holloway. I'm the Downtown Program Manager with Department for Housing and Community Development. The Downtown Transportation Fund supports municipalities in making a variety of transportation-related capital improvements within or serving eligible designated downtowns or village center districts. The Downtown Transportation Fund is intended to support safe, multimodal, and resilient transportation systems that supports the downtown and village center economic development and revitalization efforts. The Better Connections program encourages municipalities to proactively coordinate land use decisions with transportation investments and water quality improvements that build community resilience, with a particular emphasis on projects that support the implementation of innovative transportation, clean water, and land use concepts. For both the Downtown Transportation Fund and the Better Connections programs, the Clean Water Fund specifically helps to support water quality improvements that reduce nutrient and sediment pollution in coordination with transportation investments and land use decision making in Vermont communities. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Patrick Monks. I'm the Program Manager of the Water Infrastructure Finance Program, part of the Water Investment Division. The Clean Water State Revolving Fund, also known as the CWSRF, provides low-interest loans for water quality projects. The state of Vermont provides a 20% match in order to access these federal funds. The state match funds and federal funds are used to provide loans for a wide range of water quality projects that include wastewater treatment plant refurbishment, sewer collection system projects, combined sewer overflow abatement, stormwater improvements, and natural resource projects. The CWSRF provides loans to municipalities and private entities and finances both voluntary and regulatory projects. In addition to low-interest loans through the Clean Water State Revolving Loan Fund, some municipal clean water projects are eligible for municipal pollution control grants or PC grants. The source of funding for PC grants is the capital bill. PC grants fund projects including wastewater treatment plant refurbishment, sewer collection system work, combined sewer overflow abatement, and stormwater improvement projects. These grants are for municipalities only and finance both voluntary and regulatory projects. PC grants are capped at 35% of project costs.